The Galactic Council chamber was massive. It floated in orbit above the neutral world of Prime, and inside its great hall, representatives from 47 species gathered to discuss the fate of billions. Ambassador Henry Cole sat in the human section. It was a small area near the back, far from the important seats where the warrior races made their decisions. He was 55 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served Earth for 30 years, and in all that time, he had learned one important truth. The galaxy did not respect humanity. Han stood at the center platform. He was a reptilian species with green scales and cold yellow eyes. His voice carried across the chamber as he spoke about the crisis on the outer rim. "The swarm has destroyed 3 colony worlds," Han said. "They kill everything. They eat everything. We must send our combined military forces to stop them." The other nodded. The Dominion and warrior race had already pledged 10,000 soldiers. They were sending their fleet, the promised weapons and supplies. Then Han turned his yellow eyes toward the human section. A cruel smile spread across his scaled face. "And what will humanity contribute?" he asked. His tone made the question an insult. Ambassador Cole stood slowly. Every eye in the chamber watched him. "Earth is prepared to send military forces," Cole said. "We can deploy Marines within 48 hours." Laughter filled the chamber. It started with Han and spread to dozens of other species. Even some of the translator devices seemed to struggle with the sound. "Marines," Han repeated. "Humans want to send soldiers." He walked closer to the human section. His claws clicked against the metal floor. "We have studied your species for 50 years, Han said. "We have watched your entertainment, your stories, your history. Do you know what we learned?" Cole said nothing. "Humans fear combat," Han continued. "Your people protest wars. Your soldiers come home broken. Your entire culture treats violence as a disease to be cured. You write poems about the horror of battle. You build monuments to remind yourselves never to fight again." More laughter from the chamber. "Humanity is suited for administration," Han said. "Science, medicine. Perhaps you could handle refugee logistics while the real warriors fight." Ambassador Cole remained standing. His face showed nothing. But beneath the table, his hands were clenched into fists. "Is that the official position of the Council?" Cole asked quietly. High Arbiter Kelshan of the Dominion raised one of his 4 arms. He was massive, covered in black chitin that could stop blade and bullet alike. His species had conquered 11 worlds through pure military strength. "The speaks harshly," Kelshan said, "but he speaks truth. We have seen no evidence that humans can fight. Your contribution to this alliance has been technology and diplomacy, both valuable, but this is war." Cole nodded slowly. He sat back down. The meeting continued for another hour. Military plans were made. Fleets were organized. Humanity was assigned to transport supplies and care for wounded civilians. When the session ended, Ambassador Cole walked through the corridors of the station toward the human diplomatic vessel. His assistant, a young woman named Maria Santos, fell into step beside him. "Sir," she said, "are we really going to accept this?" "No," Cole said. He entered his private office and sat at his desk. Maria watched as he activated a secure communication channel. The encryption was the highest level Earth possessed. "What are you doing?" Maria asked. "Sending a message home," Cole said. He typed 3 words and sent them across the vast distance of space. "Send the Marines." 3 decks below the diplomatic quarters, Gunnery Sergeant Jack was running his squad through close-quarters combat drills. He was 38 years old with short brown hair and hands covered in old scars. He had served in the Marine Corps for 20 years, and his body carried the proof of every deployment. "Again," he said. His Marines moved through the training room. They cleared corners. They covered each other. They worked as one unit with one mind. Corporal Wells finished her run and pulled off her helmet. She was 24 with red hair tied back in a tight bun. She smiled despite the sweat running down her face. "Gunny, we've done this drill 6 times today," she said. "Then you should be perfect at it," replied. "Again." Private First Class Grant groaned quietly. He was the youngest in the squad at 21. This was his first deployment off Earth, and he still moved with the uncertainty of someone who had not yet seen real combat. "Something to say?" Grant asked. "No, Gunnery Sergeant." "Good again." They ran the drill 2 more times before Staff Sergeant Chris Monroe entered the training room. He was 34, lean and quiet, with the watchful eyes of a reconnaissance specialist. He walked directly to "Gunny," Monroe said, "Captain wants to see you." Handed control of the drill to Monroe and made his way up to the command deck. Captain Daniel was waiting in his office. Was 42, a career Marine who had earned his rank through blood and sacrifice. "Close the door," said. "Obeyed." "We just received orders from Earth Command," said. "The Council thinks humans are cowards. They think we cannot fight." "I have heard the talk," said. "Well, we are about to prove them wrong." Activated a display screen. It showed a star map with a blinking red marker. A colony ship is stranded in territory. 40,000 civilians. The Council's warrior races are calculating acceptable losses. They might send a rescue in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, repeated. Those people will be dead in 2 days. Exactly. Ambassador Cole has volunteered our forces for immediate deployment. A full Marine expeditionary unit is being sent from Earth. 2,200 Marines. Felt something stir in his chest. It was not excitement. Marines did not get excited about combat. It was something older, something deeper. "When do we move?" asked. "The Valor arrives in 6 hours with the rest of the MEU. We board and deploy immediately." The Council approved this. Smiled, but there was no humor in it. "The Council thinks we are going to die." Hand called it a suicide mission for cowards. Nodded slowly. He thought about his squad. He thought about Wells and her constant smile. He thought about Grant and his nervous eyes. He thought about all the Marines who would board the Valor and fly into enemy territory. "Then I guess we will have to change their minds," said. "That we will, Gunny, that we will." Returned to the training deck. His squad was waiting, still running drills under Monroe's supervision. "Listen up," said. They stopped and gathered around him. "We have a mission, rescue operation, 40,000 civilians, enemy territory." Finally, Wells said. Grant said nothing. His face had gone pale. Looked at each of them in turn. These were his people. He had trained them, he had pushed them. He would lead them into fire. "The galaxy thinks humans are afraid to fight," said. "They think we are soft. They think we are weak." He paused. "Let us show them what fear really looks like." UESC Valor dropped out of hyperspace 6 hours later. It was a massive carrier, built for war and painted in the dark gray colors of the United Earth Space Command. Inside its metal belly, 2,200 Marines prepared for combat. Gunnery Sergeant Jack stood in the hangar bay and watched his squad check their equipment. Each Marine moved with practiced efficiency. They had done this 100 times before. They would do it 100 times again. Corporal Wells was cleaning her plasma cannon. The weapon was almost as tall as she was, but she handled it like it weighed nothing. She hummed a song while she worked. "You seem happy," said. "I'm always happy before a fight, Gunny," Wells replied. "After the fight I am usually less happy, so I enjoy it while I can." Nearby, Private First Class Grant was sitting alone. His rifle lay across his lap, but his hands were not moving. He was staring at nothing. Walked over and sat beside him. "First real combat," said. It was not a question. "Yes, Gunnery Sergeant." "Scared?" Grant hesitated, then he nodded. "Good," said. "Fear keeps you alive. The Marines who do not feel fear are the ones who die first. They get careless. They make mistakes. But how do you fight when you are afraid? Grant asked. Considered the question. He had been asked it many times over the years. He had never found a perfect answer. You do not stop being afraid, said. You just decide that something matters more than your fear. Those 40,000 people on that colony ship, they are afraid too, but they do not have weapons. They do not have training. They only have us. Grant looked at his rifle. So I fight for them, he said. You fight for them. You fight for the Marine next to you. You fight because that is what we do. Staff Sergeant Chris Monroe approached them. He had a data pad in his hand and his usual calm expression on his face. Gunny, Monroe said, we have company. He pointed toward the hangar bay entrance. 3 observers were standing there, watching the Marines with obvious confusion. They wore recording devices on their scaled heads. They had been sent by the Galactic Council to document the mission. They expect us to fail, Monroe said quietly. I know, replied. One of the observers walked closer. He was smaller than Han, with lighter green scales and curious eyes. I am Recorder Os, he said. I am here to observe your species in combat. Welcome aboard, said. May I ask questions? You may. Os looked around the hangar bay. Marines were everywhere, preparing equipment, checking weapons, talking quietly with each other. Why do your soldiers write on paper? Os asked. Followed his gaze. Several Marines were sitting in corners, writing letters by hand. Some were looking at photographs. A few were praying. They are writing to their families, said. But you have electronic communication. They do this anyway. It is tradition. Os tilted his head. Your species has many strange traditions. We have studied them, but we do not understand them. You hate war. Your stories call it evil. Your soldiers suffer for years after fighting. Yet here you are, preparing to fight. Yes, said. Why? Looked at the young. He wondered if the alien would ever understand. We fear war because we know what it costs, said. We have fought each other for thousands of years. We have seen what war does to soldiers, to families, to nations. We know the price. Then why do you still fight? Because some things are worth the price. Os blinked his yellow eyes. He had no response. The ship's communication system crackled to life. Captain Daniel's voice filled the hangar bay. All hands, this is the captain. We drop out of hyperspace near the colony ship in 2 hours. Intel reports 17 warships surrounding the target. The enemy has already boarded. They are hunting civilians. The Marines stopped what they were doing. Every eye looked up toward the speakers. The Galactic Council believes we are cowards, continued. They believe we are soft. They assigned us to logistics because they thought we could not fight. Today we prove them wrong. He paused. We are United States Marines. For 250 years, Marines have answered the call when others would not. We have fought in jungles and deserts. We have fought in cities and mountains. We have fought in the black void of space. And we have never, not once, abandoned innocent people to die. Wells was smiling now. Her hands had stopped cleaning her weapon. In 2 hours, we board that colony ship. We kill every we find. We bring those 40,000 people home. And when we are done, the galaxy will know what fear truly means. The communication ended. For a moment, the hangar bay was silent. Then began to clap. Wells joined him, then Grant, then Monroe, then every Marine in the hangar bay. The sound echoed off the metal walls like thunder. Os stepped back, startled by the noise. He did not understand what he was seeing. These humans were about to fly into a battle they might not survive. They should be afraid. They should be hesitant. Instead, they were ready. 2 hours later, the Valor emerged from hyperspace. The colony ship hung in the distance, surrounded by warships. The enemy vessels were dark and angular, built for killing. On the bridge, Captain stood at the command console. The main screen showed the enemy fleet. 17 warships, his tactical officer reported. The colony ship's shields are down, multiple breaches along the hull. Life signs indicate are inside. How many civilians still alive? Asked. Approximately 38,000. The number is dropping. His jaw tightened. A communication signal appeared on the screen. One of the ships was hailing them. Put it through, said. The screen flickered. A hive commander appeared. It was massive, with 4 arms and mandibles that dripped venom. Its eyes were black and empty, like holes in its skull. Human vessel, the hive commander said. You are far from home. You have entered our feeding ground. I am Captain Daniel of the United Earth Space Command. You are attacking innocent civilians. Withdraw immediately. The hive commander made a sound like grinding metal. It took a moment to realize it was laughing. We have heard about humans, the hive commander said. Soft prey, weak prey. Your species fears to fight. Your warriors break easily. You will die screaming like the others. Looked at the screen. Behind him, his bridge crew waited in silence. Come find out, said. He cut the communication. Launch all Marine assault shuttles, ordered. All batteries target the nearest enemy warship. Let us introduce ourselves. The Valor's weapons came online. 50 assault shuttles launched from the hangar bays. Inside each shuttle, Marines sat in silence, weapons ready, hearts pounding. In the lead shuttle, Gunnery Sergeant looked at his squad. Wells was still smiling. Grant had stopped shaking. Monroe was checking his rifle one final time. Remember your training, said. Watch your corners, cover each other, and if you see a, put it down. The shuttle shook as enemy fire exploded nearby. Here we go, Wells said. The assault shuttle struck the colony ship's hull. The breech charges fired. The airlock door blew inward. And the Marines went to war. The corridor inside the colony ship was dark and filled with smoke. Emergency lights flickered red along the walls. Somewhere in the distance could hear screaming. Move, he ordered. His squad pushed forward. Wells took point with her plasma cannon. Monroe covered the rear. Grant stayed in the middle, his rifle aimed at every shadow. They had trained for this. Corridor fighting, close quarters combat, room by room, corner by corner, but training was never the same as the real thing. The first appeared without warning. It burst through a side door, 4 arms reaching, mandibles snapping. It was taller than any human, covered in dark armor that seemed to grow from its own body. Its black eyes focused on Wells. She fired. The plasma blast caught the creature in the chest and threw it backward. It hit the wall and slid to the floor, smoke rising from the hole in its torso. Contact, Wells said calmly. 1 down. More sounds ahead, movement in the darkness, the clicking of claws on metal. Multiple contacts, Monroe said. He had pulled out a scanner. I count 8, no 12 coming fast. They came around the corner like a wave. 12 warriors, armed with bladed weapons and natural venom. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never been defeated. The Marines opened fire. The corridor became a storm of light and noise. Plasma bolts and rifle rounds tore through the air. Fell, but more kept coming. One of them reached Private Grant and swung a blade at his head. Grant ducked. The blade cut through empty air. He shoved his rifle against the creature's body and pulled the trigger. The collapsed on top of him, and he pushed it away with shaking hands. You good? Shouted. I am good, Grant replied. 20 seconds later, the corridor was silent. 12 lay dead on the floor. Keep moving, said. They pushed deeper into the ship. Around every corner they found more signs of violence, bodies of civilians, walls covered in claw marks. They had been hunting these people for hours. A transmission crackled through his helmet. All squads, this is Lieutenant Santos. I have established a command post in the main cargo bay. Civilian survivors are gathering at my position. Enemy forces are heavy in sections 4 through 9. Proceed with caution." "Copy that," replied. "Squad 3 moving to cargo bay." They reached a large door. Beyond it could hear sounds, not screaming, something worse. Laughter, the grinding, metallic laughter of. He held up his fist. His squad stopped. Moved to the door and looked through a crack. His blood went cold. The room beyond was a storage area. A group of children huddled in the corner, maybe 20 of them. The oldest could not have been more than 10 years old in human terms. They were shaking, crying, holding each other. 5 warriors stood around them. They were not attacking. They were playing. One of them would step forward, snap its mandibles near a child's face, and laugh when the child screamed. Another was dragging its claws along the wall, making a horrible scraping sound. They were enjoying this. Something changed inside. He had fought in wars. He had killed enemies. He had seen terrible things, but this was different. This was not combat. This was cruelty. "Wells," he said quietly, "on my signal, breach left. Monroe, breach right. Grant, stay behind me and cover the children." They nodded. Kicked the door open. They turned toward the sound. For one moment they looked almost confused. They had expected prey. Soft, crying, helpless prey. They did not expect Marines. Shot the first one in the head. Wells fired her plasma cannon and vaporized 2 more. Monroe dropped the 4th with 3 precise shots to its center mass. The 5th tried to grab a child as a shield. Crossed the room in 4 steps. He grabbed by one of its arms and pulled it away from the children. The creature was stronger than him. It should have won. It did not win. Slammed his combat knife into the gap between its armor plates. He twisted. They made a choking sound and fell. Silence. The children stared at the humans with wide, terrified eyes. They had never seen anything like this. Aliens in strange armor who had appeared from nowhere and killed their tormentors in seconds. One of the children, a small girl with pale scales, looked up at. She was crying. "Are you here to hurt us?" she asked. Knelt down so he was at her level. He pulled off his helmet so she could see his face. "No," he said, "we are here to take you home." Grant moved forward and began checking the children for injuries. Wells secured the room's other entrances. Monroe was already on his radio, calling for evacuation support. This was what Marines did, not just killing, protecting. I was still alive. It lay against the wall, bleeding from multiple wounds. Walked over to it. "Why?" the creature asked. Its voice was wet and broken. "You are humans, soft species, fearful species. Why do you not run?" Looked down at the dying alien. "You threaten children," he said. "Running was never an option." The died with confusion in its black eyes. Across the colony ship, similar scenes were playing out. Marines advanced through corridor after corridor, deck after deck. They had expected easy prey. They had never faced an enemy like this. In Section 7, Corporal Wells found herself alone. Her squad had been pinned down by heavy fire, and she had drawn the enemy away to give them time to escape. Now she was holding a narrow with nothing but her plasma cannon and her stubbornness. They kept coming, one after another. She shot them down. When her plasma cannon overheated, she used her sidearm. When her sidearm ran empty, she used her knife. 7 minutes. She held that position for 7 minutes. When reinforcements finally reached her, she had 17 kills around her position and a smile on her bloody face. "About time," she said. Her left leg was broken. Her right arm was burned. She did not complain. Staff Sergeant Monroe had slipped away from his squad. He moved through maintenance tunnels, using skills he had learned in years of reconnaissance work. His target was the command ship. He found an external access port and transmitted a data package back to the Valor. It contained everything: enemy positions, weak points in their armor, communication frequencies. Captain received the transmission on the bridge. "Monroe, you beautiful man," said quietly. He began adjusting the ship's targeting systems. Back on the colony ship, Lieutenant Maria Santos coordinated the entire battle from her makeshift command post. She had taken a plasma burn to her shoulder in the first hour. She kept working. There was no time for pain. Squad 7 moved to Section 12. Squad 3, I need you at the main corridor junction. Medical team, we have civilian wounded at Point Delta. Her voice never wavered. Her hands never shook. The observers recorded everything. Os watched humans die and get back up. He watched them carry wounded friends while still firing at the enemy. He watched them form shields with their own bodies to protect civilians. He broadcast the footage to the Galactic Council in real time. In the council chamber, Han watched the screens. His yellow eyes were wide. His cruel smile was gone. High Arbiter Kelshan stood beside him, all four arms crossed over his armored chest. "They are not running," Kelshan said. "No," Han replied, "they are not." On the screen, a young human Marine named Grant ran through fire to pull a wounded child to safety. He was shot twice in the back. He kept running. "What are they?" Han whispered. Kelshan did not answer, but for the first time in his long life, he was impressed by a species other than his own. The Valor was dying. 17 warships had focused their fire on the human carrier. Its shields had failed an hour ago. Now the hull was burning, and alarms screamed through every corridor. Captain Daniel stood on the bridge, gripping the console as another explosion rocked the ship. "Hull breach on Deck 7, his tactical officer reported. "Deck 12 is venting atmosphere. We have lost main engines." "Weapon status." "Forward batteries still operational. Missiles are depleted." Looked at the main screen. The colony ship was visible in the distance. His Marines were still fighting inside, still saving lives. If the Valor fell now, they would have no way home. "All non-essential personnel to escape pods," ordered. "Helm, put us between the enemy fleet and the colony ship. We will be their shield." "Sir, that will destroy us," the helmsman said. "I know." The Valor moved. Its broken hull groaned under the stress, but it moved. It positioned itself directly in the firing path of the fleet. Enemy weapons struck the carrier again and again. Sections of the ship broke away and floated into the void. Fire spread through the lower decks. "Remained on the bridge." "Captain," his communications officer said, "Earth Battle Group just entered the system. They are 40 minutes out." 40 minutes? The Valor would not last 40 minutes. "Tell them to hurry," said. On the colony ship, the battle continued. Gunnery Sergeant pushed through corridor after corridor. His squad had grown smaller. They had started with 12. Now they were 6. The others were dead or wounded, carried back to medical stations by civilians who had found the courage to help. They reached the main junction where Lieutenant Santos had established her command post. She was still there, still coordinating, still giving orders despite the blood soaking through her bandage. "Gunny," Santos said, "the Valor is taking heavy fire. They cannot hold much longer." "Where do you need us?" "Section 4 are making a final push toward the civilian shelters. If they break through, we lose 3,000 people." Nodded, he turned to his squad. Wells was limping but still carrying her plasma cannon. Monroe was quiet as always, watching the shadows. Grant had stopped looking afraid. Something had changed in his eyes. "You heard the lieutenant said, 'Let us move.'" They ran through the ship. Around them, Marines and fought in every corridor. The smell of smoke and blood filled the air. Bodies lay everywhere, human and alien alike. In Section 4, they found chaos. 50 warriors were pushing toward a sealed door. Behind that door, 3,000 civilians waited for death or rescue. 20 Marines held the line, but they were losing ground. "Join the fight without hesitation." His rifle kicked against his shoulder as he fired. Wells found a position and began cutting through the enemy ranks with her plasma cannon. Monroe picked off targets from the shadows. Grant ran forward. He had never been a brave man. He had joined the Marines because he did not know what else to do with his life. He had been afraid every moment since this mission started. But fear did not matter anymore. He saw a Marine fall, wounded by claws. Without thinking, Grant grabbed the man and dragged him back behind cover. A swung at his head. He ducked, raised his rifle, and fired. The creature fell. "Not bad," Private shouted. "Just doing my job, Gunny." They kept coming. They were not retreating. They knew this was their last chance to kill, and they intended to take as many lives as possible. But something else was happening too. The civilians had started helping. They carried wounded Marines to safety. They brought ammunition and supplies. They formed human chains to evacuate children through maintenance tunnels. A young male approached Corporal Wells. She was reloading her weapon, her hands moving fast despite the pain in her broken leg. "Are you afraid?" he asked. Wells laughed. It was a strange sound in the middle of battle, bright and unexpected. "Terrified," she said, "but scared people can still fight." She raised her plasma cannon and fired again. Elsewhere on the ship, the Hive commander received reports of failure after failure. His forces were dying. His hunters had become the hunted. The soft, weak humans had turned his feeding ground into a graveyard. He made a decision. "All forces fall back to the command ship," he ordered. "Except me. I will end this personally." He left his command ship and boarded the colony ship. His body was massive, larger than any warrior in his swarm. His 4 arms carried weapons that could tear through armor like paper. His venom could kill with a single scratch. He was going to kill the human leader. Captain had evacuated the dying Valor. An escape pod carried him to the colony ship, where he joined his Marines on the ground. His uniform was burned and torn. His face was covered in ash. He did not care. "Captain on deck," someone shouted. Marines around him snapped to attention despite the chaos. "Keep fighting," ordered. "I did not come here to watch." He picked up a rifle from a fallen Marine and moved toward the front lines. Lieutenant Santos found him near the main junction. "Sir, you should be commanding from safety," she said. "There is no safety here," replied, "and my Marines need to see their captain fighting beside them." They fought together for the next hour, proved that he had not forgotten how to be a soldier. He moved through the corridors, directing squads, engaging enemies, pulling wounded to cover. Then the Hive commander found him. Was alone in a corridor when the Massive appeared. It blocked the entire passage, its black eyes fixed on the human. "You are their leader," the Hive commander said. "I can smell authority on you." "And you must be the head of this swarm," replied. "I was hopping to meet you." Brave words for soft prey. Raised his rifle. The Hive commander moved faster than something that large should have been able to move. It knocked the weapon from his hands and grabbed him by the throat. Felt his feet leave the ground. The Hive commander's grip was crushing his windpipe. "Your species is strange," the Hive commander said. "You fear war, your own people told us this, yet you fight like nothing we have seen. Why?" Could barely speak, but he forced the words out. "Because we know what we become in war. We have seen our own darkness. We fear it, but we do not run from it." The Hive commander tilted its head. "What do you become?" Smiled through the pain. "The thing that monsters fear." He pulled a blade from his boot and drove it into the Hive commander's arm. The creature dropped him, shrieking in rage. Hit the ground and rolled away. He came up with the blade in his hand. "Come on," he said. "Let us finish this." In the distance, the sound of combat was fading. The forces were broken. The civilians were saved. But here in this corridor, 2 leaders faced each other. One of them would not walk away. Captain Daniel and the Hive Commander circled each other in the damaged corridor. The ship groaned around them. Smoke filled the air. Neither of them cared. The Hive Commander struck first. 4 arms came at from different angles, each one capable of crushing bone. Ducked under the first swing, blocked the second with his forearm and took the third across his ribs. He felt something crack. He drove his blade into the joint between 2 of the creature's arm segments. The Hive Commander screamed and pulled back. "You are wounded," the Hive Commander said. "You are slow, you cannot win." "Maybe not," replied, "but I can make sure you do not win either." They fought. It was not graceful. It was not clean. It was 2 beings trying to kill each other with everything they had. Was smaller, weaker, slower. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His broken ribs made every breath agony. But he did not stop. The Hive Commander could not understand it. This human should have fallen long ago. Every other species would have surrendered or fled, but kept coming, kept fighting, kept refusing to die. "Why?" the Hive Commander demanded. "Why do you not give up?" Spat blood onto the floor. "Because giving up means those people die," he said. "Because my Marines are watching. Because surrender is not something we do." He lunged forward. The Hive Commander caught him with one arm and threw him against the wall, hit hard and slid to the ground. The creature loomed over him. "This is the end, human." Looked up, his vision was blurring. His body was failing. He could feel death approaching. But he could also see his knife, lying on the ground just within reach. "Yes," said it is. He grabbed the blade and drove it upward with the last of his strength. It found the gap in the Hive Commander's armor, right where the central nerve cluster lay. The blade sank into the hilt. The Hive Commander froze. Its black eyes went wide. It tried to speak, but no words came. It fell, pulled himself to his feet. He stood over the dead creature, swaying, bleeding, barely alive. "Gunny," he said into his radio. "Target eliminated." Then he collapsed. The Marines found him 10 minutes later, reached him first, was still breathing but barely. Captain said, "Stay with me." "Did we win?" asked. "We won, sir. Earth Battle Group just arrived. They are retreating." Smiled, blood stained his teeth. "Good, take care of our people, Gunny." "Sir, the medics are coming. Hold on." Shook his head slowly. "Tell them," he whispered, "tell them that Marines never run." He died with his eyes open, looking at the ceiling of a ship far from home. Stayed beside him for a long moment. Then he gently closed the captain's eyes and stood up. "Wells," he said, "get a stretcher. We are taking him home." The battle for the colony ship was over. Of 2,200 Marines, 847 survived. They had saved 38,000 civilians. The cost had been enormous, but they had won. The Earth Battle Group secured the area and began evacuation operations. Wounded Marines were carried to medical ships. Civilians were transferred to transport vessels. Bodies were collected, tagged, and prepared for the journey home. Carried Captain's body to the extraction shuttle personally. 1 week later, the Galactic Council chamber was filled to capacity. Every species had sent representatives. The screens showed footage from the battle, recorded by the observers and broadcast across the galaxy. The footage showed Marines dying, fighting, protecting, sacrificing. It showed Corporal Wells holding it alone, laughing through her pain. It showed Staff Sergeant Chris Monroe slipping through enemy lines to gather intelligence. It showed Private First Class Grant carrying wounded children through fire. It showed Captain Daniel standing over the Hive Commander's body with his last breath in his lungs. When the footage ended, the chamber was silent. High Arbiter Kelshan rose from his seat. He was the oldest warrior in the Dominion, commander of armies that had conquered worlds. When he spoke, everyone listened. "We were wrong about humanity," he said. Han tried to speak, but no words came. His yellow eyes were fixed on the frozen image of standing amid the fallen enemy. Ambassador Henry Cole stepped forward to address the council. Hans said that humans fear combat, Cole said. He was right. We do fear it. We fear the cost. We fear the pain. We fear what we become when we fight. He paused. But fear has never stopped us. It never will. Our history is full of wars we did not want to fight, battles we did not want to face. We fight anyway, because some things matter more than fear. He looked around the chamber. We will mourn our fallen. We will carry their memory forever. And the next time innocent lives are threatened, we will answer the call again. That is what Marines do. That is what humans do. The Council voted unanimously to grant humanity full military standing in the Alliance. 17 species requested human training programs for their own forces. 1 year later, Earth held a memorial service for the fallen. The ceremony took place in a park filled with cherry trees. A stone wall stood at the center, covered with names. 1,353 names, each one representing a Marine who had given their life to save strangers. Master Sergeant Jack stood at attention in his dress uniform. Beside him stood the survivors of his squad. Wells had new legs now, mechanical replacements that let her walk and run again. She stood straight and proud, her medals gleaming on her chest. Chris Monroe was as quiet as ever, but his eyes were wet. Grant wore sergeant stripes on his sleeve. He was not a boy anymore. Lieutenant Maria Santos, now a captain herself, placed flowers at the base of the memorial wall. She traced her fingers across one name in particular. Daniel. An honor guard fired rifles into the air. A bugle played a song that humans had played for their fallen warriors for centuries. When the ceremony ended, walked to Captain's grave. It was a simple stone in a quiet corner of the memorial park, surrounded by the graves of other Marines who had died in service. Stood there for a long time, saying nothing. Finally he spoke. They know now, Captain. The whole galaxy knows. You showed them what we are, what we can be when something matters enough. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a Marine Corps emblem. He placed it on the headstone, beside the inscription. The inscription read, "He taught the galaxy what fear truly meant." "Rest easy, sir," said, "we will take it from here." He saluted. Then he turned and walked away, toward the setting sun, toward whatever mission waited next. Across the galaxy, the word had spread. Species who had once mocked humanity now spoke of them with respect. Warriors who had dismissed humans as cowards now studied their tactics with fascination. And when they spoke of the battle for the colony ship, they used a word borrowed from human language, a word that had come to mean something new in the galactic tongue. Marines. They spoke it with fear, they spoke it with respect. And somewhere in the quiet corners of the universe, enemies of peace heard that word and decided to look for easier prey. Because the galaxy had learned a simple truth. Humans fear combat, they fear what it costs, they fear what it makes them. But when innocent lives are threatened, when evil must be stopped, when someone has to stand in the fire and refuse to break, humans will answer. And those who threaten the innocent will learn what fear truly means.